It's Spoilerin time, the last Spoilerin time of 2022. And this week we are going to talk about Miami Vice, Season 3, Episode 21, Knock Knock. Who's there? Ian McShane, without an English accent, sort of, some of the time. Also, 2521, Season 1, Episode 7. Will the 2521 challenge continue? And just out of the theaters, Bryce and Brian just finished watching Avatar, The Way of Water, that they watched all last week.
It took so long.
That will be our first one. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Heck yeah, dude. Where would you like to start?
How's your butt?
Sorry?
How's your butt after sitting watching Avatar, The Way of Water?
It's fine.
Let's talk about Avatar, The Way of Water. Did you find it as long as I did?
It was very long. But more importantly, Tom, Avatar 2, The Way of Water, is the epic story of a father moving his family to someplace they don't want to be. And near the end of Act 1, when that little girl said, "I want to go home," I said, "No, Callie. We're watching Avatar 2, The Way of Water." This is a literal, real thing that happened at that exact moment. I've never encountered anything like this.
Synchronicity. Wow.
Callie, okay. A good story in general doesn't require you to know the backstory. Callie spent the first hour asking me, "What is happening? What is this? I don't understand." And I thought, don't worry. James Cameron, expert at making things simple. He only does simple stories. It'll come out, right? Didn't come out. Didn't come out for the first full hour. And I kid you not, Tom, this is no lie, no BS, no embellishment. Finally, like every time she asked, I said, "Well, if you want, your mom could pick you up or I could take you home or whatever." And finally, Callie said the words out loud to me, "I want to go home." And I swear, you know, I don't mess around with the pinky swear. 5 seconds later, the movie said, "I want to go home." And it was this utterly surreal moment that made me realize maybe this is just bad storytelling. Maybe, just maybe, similar to George Lucas famously said around the time of Star Wars, he said that the biggest mistake that science fiction storytellers make is that they get so in love with their models and their ships and their world building that they take too long to focus on them. He said, just blow it up, show it, let it be awesome, blow it up, move on. Eventually, George Lucas got older, decided to take more time and move slower. We got the prequels. I think that's where we're at with James Cameron. James Cameron has always moved things along, but instead there's so much GD noise in this whole thing. I did not like the 48 frames per second high frame HFR that I got. It suddenly looked like a Let's Play at random times. This movie did not land with me. It did not land with me.
Ooh, just at all, generally.
Well, and I can...
Because there's a lot to not land.
I can go into, like, let me start with the parts I didn't like, and then eventually I'll sing its praises for all the things I liked. The things I did not like, the HFR did not land. It always took me out of things because it suddenly looked like a Let's Play video game. I didn't care for the fact that I cannot name a single character outside of Jake Sully in this entire movie. Can either of you two?
I could.
Spider, maybe.
That day. I could that day. I can't anymore. I couldn't have even told you Sully's name till you said it just now. So I'm not sure I'm the proper thing. But the character names are not obvious. So I don't know if you're saying the character names are weird or that you didn't think the characters were compelling.
Because I remember the archetypes, right? There's the older daughter, there's the younger daughter. Yeah. They got two brothers.
There's the responsible older son, and then there's the somewhat ignored rebel younger son.
And there was guy who came back as a clone from the bad guy of last time.
Oh, and the human side. Yeah. And there's the clone of the military guy.
And now we're drifting into things I really, really liked. Things I really, really liked were entire scripted moments where no dialogue was spoken. That moment when Jake Sully and family shows up and they lay themselves bare saying, we're out of the fighting business. We just want to hide. Will you please hide us? And they behave in a way that, like that moment where the leader of the Sea Tribe glances over to the real boss, his wife, and she does an eye roll and somebody does something and then an eyebrow flitters and then suddenly he says, yes, you may stay here. Genius. All of that. Brilliant. Great from beginning to end. Yeah. But also, there's so much noise. There's so much noise in this movie.
What is some of the noise?
There's part of me that wished all of it was in 24 frames per second. And it occurred to me.
Yeah, and just W. Scottus One was asking about this. The movie is not in 48 like The Hobbit was. The movie is mostly in 24.
Correct.
But then certain effects scenes are done in 48.
Oh.
And he double framed the 24 frame scenes so that you can't tell. They're just in 24, but then it will shift to 48 frames for certain things. And that's what Brian's saying he noticed. I never noticed it personally, but Brian's not the first person to say they noticed it and it took them out.
I thought my thing was broken because I didn't notice any high frame rate stuff, but I have a bad time noticing high frame rate.
Well, and those moments for me read as essentially like watching a let's play of a video game or something.
Some people like that.
Sure. And as it should be. But in general, I wish there was a version of this that could be told at 24 frames per second. But I understand that it's like, no. There's so much happening. We have to do 48 frames per second. And
would you go watch it again in 2D, assuming that is all 24 frame? Because I think it is.
I don't know that I'll ever look at it again.
Oh.
Well, okay, but I think what Bryce is saying is if it had all been in 24,
would you trade the 3D effect for
helped
24?
Yeah.
I think that the reason they used 48 is because there were scenes where so much was happening that they had to. Like it would take away from the story.
And 3D. That was the other thing, is there were certain 3D effects they couldn't do unless they did them in 48.
Right. And I've never ever gone to Disney World and ridden a theme park ride and was moved to tears. New sentence. I am a father of 3 daughters who has a wide open back door to my heart where all you have to do is tell me a story about a dad with kids and whatnot, and I will cry instantly. I very clearly was supposed to be crying during this movie, and I couldn't because there was so much GD noise happening.
Well, your actual daughter's just sitting there complaining about being in the theater.
About being bored for the first hour. I had to leave the movie and take her home because she was so bored about this confusing story about the blue cat people who have to go to an aquamarine cat people and learn a slightly different, also who's what and where. Can you give me a name? Can you make this simple?
I'll say this.
Technically, it's excellent. Storytelling-wise, I was highly disappointed, especially from somebody who I trust with one thing. Tell me a very simple story, technically amazing.
In the screening that I went to, there were a lot of children. It seemed like a lot of people brought their children to watch this movie. And a lot of those children were not interested in watching the movie. I think
very optimistic to take your child to a 3-hour movie. And I'm
4 kids, Tom.
Especially the younger ones.
4 kids running up and down the aisle, Tom. For an hour. It made me like the movie more. Frankly, it made me like the movie more because my theater going experience was so... I can't say these words I want to say on this podcast, but I had a very bad...
Not great.
I had a bad theatrical experience And despite all that, I loved this movie. Oh my
Really?
God, I love this movie. Even though it's Avatar 1.5, because, I mean, literally they go back and do half of Avatar again with the new guys. I thought it was great. It's a huge spectacle. I wonder if part of the reason it didn't emotionally resonate with you, Brian, is because this is a father-son story. This is the women in the daughters are very small. Even the older son is
Yeah, this is very much a father-son story, but that should still resonate with Brian having been a son.
Well, and also being a father. I will admit, like, all of my experience is definitely skewed by the fact that my daughter spent the first hour constantly asking what is happening.
Sure.
And
had she seen the first movie?
No, well, actually she had, but I
she
mean,
didn't remember it, yeah.
she just turned 10 yesterday, so who's to say, whether or not she remembers.
She didn't get it. She should have read a recap or something. She should have watched a YouTube cut ahead of time.
I mean, again, this was me mistakenly placing my trust in James Cameron's hands, because normally he leaves nothing to chance. He makes it very, very simple, very easy to pick up and run with things.
Though I will say, and maybe this is colored because I did read a small article right before I went in of like, hey, do you remember what happened in the first Avatar? And that entire article basically said, yeah, we'll tell you, but you don't need to know it. I mean,
I wonder if it would have helped.
Yeah.
Honestly, it may not have. It may have.
I think
don't
it
know.
helped me to have someone say like, you don't need to worry too much about
Don't worry about it.
the previous
Yeah,
film.
maybe.
Because I think that's the case, right? Like, you get it. Like, this guy is like he's an evil avatar. You don't really need the details of unobtainium. You've got the soprano lady. She's the new bad human, but then she kind of disappears halfway through the movie. Now instead of flying animals, they're flying sea animals. And literally, they're the exact same
Falco.
animal.
Yeah.
I to be honest, like, I went into the movie sort of braced for, when are they going to mention unobtainium? And the answer is never. They're just going to invent a new unobtainium? Yeah. Like, by the way, we don't care about the thing that makes superconductivity possible. We care about the thing that keeps humans alive forever. Also, in the letter I've referenced a number of times, Teller told me that the heart of a good magic trick is to surprise you, by which he meant place 2 and 2 in front of you, convince you it's 5, then reveal the truth 4, and blow me away. This movie takes the curious tack of deciding to just do things and then afterwards explain why they were important. Like, let's kill a bunch of whales. Why? Oh, yeah. No, that's because it keeps you alive and young forever. Let's. You
didn't like that?
I really didn't. I really disliked it very much. I felt like I was intentionally being left in the dark, and there was.
You were being shown, not told.
No, I was being told, not shown. Because if you showed it to me, you would give me the elements and then give me the aha moment of putting them together. But instead, I was deliberately kept in a black box where it's like, we're hunting whales. Why? Shut up. That's why. Yeah. And then also, not for nothing, all love to Jermaine Clement, but oh my goodness, seeing him overweight and trying to do an American accent was adorable. Like, I just wanted to roll my eyes, but also, who's to say what an American accent or an Earth accent sounds like in the future? All I know is I saw an Australian trying to do hard R's his entire role.
Wow. Tom, what about you? How did you feel about Avatar, the shape of ways of water?
Yeah, it was long. I don't know if I mentioned that before. It was really, really effing long. Really pretty movie. If you can stand to sit still for 3 hours, which I'm not going to say whether that's an age-dependent thing, because I'm not sure it is in this case. You'll think it's pretty. I guarantee that. I've been talking about these 4 doorways into movies. And I want to properly credit Nancy Pearl as the person who came up with that. I came to it from a different path, but I finally found the source of that. I think I said before, story. not the strong point of this movie. And I think Brian has very eloquently explained why. Character, spotty. There's some good ones. There's some good ones in here. There's some real flat ones in here. Setting, 100%. If all you care about in a story is setting, go watch Avatar: Way of Water. This is your movie because it's all about the setting. And then language, when you apply it to movies, could mean dialogue. It could mean visual language. And I think visually, technical issue aside, because again, I didn't notice the 48 frames per second, but I'm not the kind of person who notices that. If that doesn't take you out of it, I think technically speaking, the 3D language, the filmic language, the way shots are created is pretty good. So those are the two aspects I think it is strong with. And yeah, if your priority is story like it is with Brian, you're going to react like Brian. You're going to have those problems with this movie. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Bryce, will you take us out on a high note and make us see why we should love this movie or why you loved it?
The reason I like this movie, the feeling that I connected with during this movie was the same that I get when I watch any of these big spectacle films, right? The Moving Earth, the Wandering Earth, or an Annihilation, a big big visual effect to the point where it made me go, this is my favorite Marvel movie because it's probably better than any of those things that they've pooped out, and it's all the same green screen stuff anyway. But it doesn't have to be within box. They can curse and they can not have to worry about canon and things. That's the space that it filled for me. I don't think I was expecting hard sci-fi and figuring out intergalactic trade relations, etc. But I think as like in the same, if you compare it to Aquaman, which is also just a big fun dumb spectacle movie, and this one's just twice as long.
And half as funny. And
if
half
they had
as
doubled the
self-aware.
frame rate again, it would have only been an hour and a half. Right? Isn't that not how that works?
I will say I was surprised at how many children and young people were in my screening, but I think watching the movie, I definitely see where like, oh, this is actually kind of for Quadrant. Like this is family friendly. There's a lot of action. There's good emotional drama. Like, yes, it's long. But similar to, I'll talk about this when we talk about 2521, but the length helps. The length makes these big moments really hit a lot better. Yes, that means you have to have 1,000 Chekhov's guns throughout the entire thing, but it works. And I thought the thing that was definitely going to happen, which would be Sigourney Weaver's teenager character becoming the total savior of the day instead of just like the last second helper. Other than that,
I don't know. She kind of became like the AWA bender at the end.
Sure, but even that is not touched on in this movie. Like they hint at it, so, like similar to the fact that like we had this whole plot line and did not once ever mention that the new bad guys are. They got blue skin. They are Na'vi. Like there's like a whole race story that they just didn't tell in this series.
They left it off screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also they left him alive, which is I think maybe what they do next is
they've got 2 more movies, right?
Right.
I mean,
which is I think why we don't see as much of the kids either.
Almost certainly we're about to see a Darth Vader redemption, and this is essentially a story. Yeah, I smelled it a little bit in the first movie, but boy, did the second movie hammer it home. This is a straight up cowboys and Indian story. This is about the nuance of it's cowboys and Indians only with protagonist roles reversed, and
Yeah. And like we didn't even get, I think, to the logical conclusion of this film, which is once that ship and the 5 guys who were on it die, aren't they going to send the rest of the sky people? Like the next thing is Camilla Soprano coming in with the full force of the Earth military to take over.
Avatar: The Way of Fire, or whatever the next one's going to be called.
Yeah, but even in that regard,
we
like
got 3 more elements to go.
That's right,
2
baby.
more.
So that's how I frame. That's the frame that I really enjoyed this.
There were moments during this movie where I got caught up in it, for sure. There were also moments when I was checking my watch. A lot of those. So it's so long that you can't have both. But it wasn't like it was just a 3-hour slog. I would get restless. I would get bored. My butt would hurt, and then suddenly I would get caught up and forget where I was, and a half hour would go by, and I'd be like, "Oh wow, it's more time has passed since I last checked my watch than I would have guessed." So,
yeah,
probably not what you want to put on the movie poster. But,
this is probably unfair objective empiricism happening, but it's like I trusted, past tense, James Cameron to be good at telling me a simple story, and he let me down.
You expected him to tell a simple story, and
correct,
and he did not meet your expectation.
Correct,
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
That is Avatar: The Way of Water. All right, let's talk about 2521, season 1, episode 7. Brian, you didn't have to watch, did you?
Did he remember he didn't have to watch?
I mean, truth be told, look,
you were gonna watch it,
Tom. This is not a story of me watching 2521. It is a story of me trying to understand why you want to watch 2521.
Why I like it so much.
Yeah. Correct.
And and to be fair, I have always thought there's a big chance that you won't like this and you'll bow out. And I've always been fine with that. So there's no harm done if you ever tap out. And I know you know that, but I'm just making that clear to listeners too.
Right. The big boogeyman is, do I find myself bored even at 1.5 times speed? And I did. But
even during the first 20 minutes?
No. First 20 minutes, super solid. It was great. It was great.
I paused after that 20 minutes to take a break, and I was like, oh my God, hey, that was a great episode. Let's wrap it up, bring it home. We watched a whole sports movie.
That's actually one of my advices with this, even at doubling the speed or increasing the speed. Watch them in 2 chunks. Like generally what I've been doing personally.
Yeah. So we get the story of... it is a fascinating and complicated story of somebody achieving their dreams and then a shadow of doubt being cast over it. The way we get a little bit of a peek into the narrative or to how the media shapes narratives. It's complicated by personal relationships. I would say the first 25 minutes of this episode were sublime. Just great. And as what was the word you used, Bryce? Hokey? A little bit hokey.
Hokey.
Oh yeah, there's hokey in this series. Yeah, for sure. And pacing is not its strong point. I will grant you both of those things.
Because I enjoyed our 20-minute movie, and I really didn't love 50 minutes of the final scene of that movie. Like even within that even within that other part of the show, there's good stuff there. Though I will say we're kind of getting into this pattern of Hido being kind of this damsel in distress, especially for Bach. But, there's a lot of like, I need you to come and rescue me. And he does it, and it's very romantic.
Need him to come and rescue her.
Except for at the end, when she definitely was trapped, locked in a room and needed him to come.
Yeah, that was
I was
really
thinking of the cell phone. The cell phone thing, she was like, I didn't want you. When she locks herself in the room, then it does. You could see that as damsel in distress. I get that. I take it as the one person she knew she could call, and she could have called multiple people, but the one person she knew would come was Yijin.
Yeah, that moment made me feel like, girl, you just got the gold medal. Like you need to stand up for yourself.
The getting locked in the school made you think that?
No, I mean just in general. She really was very passive in that whole
that moment where she ditches, where she drops the medal. I thought was pretty metal.
Yeah, I did feel really bad for her. I think they did a really good job.
And when he's following her, like, I picked up your phone. She's like, why? I didn't ask you to do that. Yeah.
There's good stuff there.
what I really like, the things that are emblems in this episode of why I like it is you're like, well, okay, she's got to beat Urim. Like this story is going to be a little disappointing if she loses. I guess they could have her lose and then come back. But they have her beat Koirim, which is actually believable that Urim is now all in her own head and Naido is fresh and they've built up like, oh, here's some actual athletic reasons. But then it would be too easy if she won. And I loved the first time I saw it. I'm like, oh, she didn't win. She won the match, but she lost everything else. And her inexperience shows, and it's metal when she just throws down the gold medal is like, forget it. It's showing that complicated friendship that she has with Eugene, that, you know, she's been dating this boy, you know, she's got her own life, but she still has this person that over years now she has been able to rely on. And even when they have spats, she is like, you know what, but you're the person that I can rely on.
Yeah. There was also, hold on.
Oh, you mentioned the news thing.
Yeah.
I like
the fact that it came up that maybe the judge was bribed. And so to solve the mystery, he bribes the judge.
Hold on. Before we get to that, because that is weird. Her mom, we know, chose telling the news over her relationship with Ito's coach in the past. We then see, we're not told, we see her mom be proud of her daughter and then just throw her under the bus on the news saying
I legitimately kind of respected that, because that told me that that reminded me that Hito's mom is on her own journey, and that involves a strong commitment to journalistic integrity, which means nobody is above telling the truth. And then I thought was significant.
Yeah, and you
important.
see Hito get hurt by that, but also be like, yeah, that's what my mom does. That's why I don't rely on her. That's why I don't call her when I'm stuck.
And to be clear, I want to make just so there's no misunderstanding, my opinion of that moment was in no way affected by the fact that I'm raising 3 daughters as a fairly prominent YouTube personality.
Fair. Then let's get to the part where Yijin chases down the referee, which is like, we know he's doing it because of Hito, but it's also like he's doing it the way a good reporter would chase down a story until he tries to bribe him with a baby Bjorn. I would like to choose to believe that the referee just declines and is like, forget it.
Tom, it's. I will defer to Bryce on this one.
A
but
baby
it
Bjorn
was
is
fairly
not
clear to
a
me.
valuable enough item to count as like breaking ethics rules.
It was fairly clear to me that he engaged in what I assume is a very successful practice among journalists, which is giving thoughtful gifts in order to get a story. Bryce, do you think he accepted the baby Bjorn?
Probably. I mean, if I'm Becky Jean, then then all I say is like, I only did it as a sign of friendship to get him to say anything. He wasn't going to say anything, so I got him to say his honest take at the cost of like a $15 blanket or, you know, whatever an actual, because it can't be that
no,
expensive.
It can't be that expensive. Also, it's the gesture more than the action that like, I bought this for you. I was thinking about you.
Though I'll say,
and the ref still says no after he sees that. It's not like, oh, you bought me that thing. Okay. He's like, no, I can't do this. I won't do this. No. And it's not until Yijin says, but here's what's happening, and wins him over with his rhetoric that he just like, fine, I'll say the one thing on camera.
Brian, I'm going to do a little criminology here.
Mm-hmm.
If the story was better, they would have come back around to this and said, hey, did you bribe that guy? Did you put this moment into jeopardy. And if that was going to happen, then Tom would have said, "You're going to see more to come with the details of this story." And he didn't. He's engaging us with full-throated conversation about this. So I think they will probably let this loose thread dangle.
If it had been a more valuable item, then yes, but this is, like you said, this is like, $15, $10 kind of back in the 90s when this is taking place. Yeah. This thing is not that money pawn.
Yeah.
I bet he did
that is a weakness in the story because it brought it up to me too. Like, but he's kind of bribing him with this. I know it's not very valuable, but it's like he could have done something else to do that human connection thing, maybe. But he tried to hit on the, like, I know you have a child. Look, I'm thinking of you. It did muddy it a little. I'm with you.
Well, especially because like it was like, was the judge corrupt? Is he being bribed? I don't know. I
don't think it seriously gets called into question by a blanket. But it isn't clean.
No.
It isn't clean.
Yeah.
But it is an odd way to resolve the question. Like, no.
Or they could have had him clearly say, like, but you need to keep that, right? Give us that one little scene where he's like, I'll do the video, but you keep I can't accept any gifts from you.
Armchair quarterbacking, you could have easily put a moment in there like, hey, kid, listen. A lot of people try to bribe me. One guy did this, one guy did that. One thing I cannot be bribed. You take your baby Bjorn and shove it.
It was really nice of you to think about me. Yeah. But I did like that what they're showing with the wider part of that is that Baeki Jin is able to defend his friend within the constraints of journalism. He's going the extra mile to like literally miles to Gimpo Airport to try to make sure that he is protecting her in a way that his mom very understandably doesn't, because it would be more difficult for her to do that. And
I did dig the post scene where he gets an attaboy for, it's like, is it true that you did this? And he immediately owns it. He's like, this is a friend of mine. This is the story. I needed to resolve it. It was being misrepresented. What do you got? And he's like, yeah, no, that's called good journalism.
That's just good. Yeah. Well, for whatever reason, that was good journalism. Yeah. Good job. Mm-hmm. And don't forget, he's the guy that doesn't have a college degree. They were like, you shouldn't be in this business. So that kind of stuff is important in the background as well.
What about the ending?
What was the very, very end?
They're playing one of the cassette tapes, and at the end of it, there's a hot recording.
It was a very hokey ending.
Like, yes, I want the camera on so everyone knows I love you.
Also, why was he recording that? First of all, at least they acknowledged it with the like, "Are you recording this?" But
I didn't like it. It really stinks. It kind of stinks as a plot machine, of only because like the fencing stuff's great. The multiple times is great, but so, like we're really gonna do this like rote, like, oh, but you had a girlfriend before me, and we're not even right. Like, and either they're gonna do that story or they're gonna kick that story away immediately, and both of those are bad options to me.
And also, it's not our champion girl; it's some other girl or.
Right. It's a girl from back when he was in high school that we don't know.
Yeah.
He dated someone in high school.
All of that felt.
Well, you'll just have to tune in next time to find out. It's just like her winning the fencing championship. There's no way it could turn out to be satisfying, right?
There's how many more episodes? 8 more episodes? 9 more episodes?
Yeah, you're halfway through almost. Yeah. Like I said, you could tap out anytime.
Look, the Tom challenge.
Should we Bryce slice this? Is there Tom? Is this a show where we could just Bryce slice this?
This episode was good enough that I feel like now we can't have this discussion. But give me a softer episode than this, and you and I are gonna connive to figure out a way to.
Let me think on this. I can watch these. Or like I could watch the next one tonight or tomorrow and maybe provide guidance
yes.
on parts to skip, where to go to the bathroom, fast forward.
Can we do a thing where you flip a coin or roll a die and Bryce and I have different experiences and then
No, don't push it. Let's
Okay.
I thought you liked a simple story,
thought you
James Cameron. All right. Anything else on 2521?
No, it's fascinating, Tom. Like I really feel like I'm getting a peek into your heart and mind, and I'm thankful for it. However,
well, thanks.
I will admit
As
that
painful as it is for you.
this show is a mismatch for me, but I want to keep going.
All right. All right. Well, that is 2521, season 1, episode 7. Our final spoiler in time for today is Miami Vice, season 3's episode 21, Knock Knock, Who's There? With Ian McShane as a drug lord.
Tom,
Yep.
number one, it took me a minute to recognize Ian McShane.
Oh, really?
But once I
Okay.
did, this is a fabulous episode of Miami Vice.
So good.
It
It's
might
a
be
great episode
the best one we've
of
seen
Law
so
and Order.
far.
Oh, I'm sorry, Miami Vice. Yeah.
It is really light on Crockett and Tubbs.
Yeah.
There's like no Tubbs.
I mean,
And you pointed out it was written by the Law and Order guy, right?
Dick Wolf,
Dick
yeah.
Wolf, yeah.
Yeah. And that shows. And I do not say that as a criticism. This is a really tight episode. It's very un-Miami Vice like in some ways. Like you say, there's not a lot of Crockett and Tubbs. There's a little bit of cliche, like, I'm going to run you in, Crockett. You just wait and see. I'm going to yell at you, internal investigation guy. Those parts seemed the most cliche parts of it, but it had good movement and some pretty deep characters outside of that.
Well, and in many episodes before, sometimes there's one character Crockett, and sometimes there's one character Tubbs. Sometimes there's one character Crockett and Tubbs. In this particular episode, I don't think either Crockett or Tubbs are anything other than an elemental force. There's something to be dealt with. The star is our lady from the DEA, who is even when they do an excellent job of letting us put the story together, because they didn't say anything beforehand about the DEA not being the actual DEA. And instead, they just showed us actions
They let us
that
discover it.
caused us to think, that's weird. That's not how the DEA does things. They don't grab the money and the drugs and run away.
Well, and the Miranda rights they read are not correct. And that didn't
They're
sink
reading
in
them off a card.
until Crockett reads her the actual Miranda rights later. And I'm like, oh, right. Yeah, no, it did. It was weird when they were like, you can say whatever you want, but it might be used against you. And it was like, and then Crockett does the, like, you have the right to remain silent. You have a right to an attorney that we're all familiar with.
I think that was, to be honest, that didn't register with me because I believe it's maybe legally important that they actually read them. So the fact that he was reading them didn't bother me.
The fact that it was different words
when it was different words
registered with me, and I was like, well, but I guess those are the words that still matter. So it
I read
struck
that
me, but I
as-
didn't get suspicious. And then it came back later when Crockett read the actual words. I'm like, oh no, this show knows that what the words are. They were doing that on purpose.
Yeah, I read that as maybe the federal division has a different interpretation of what they need to say.
Yeah, but
than the
it
local
turns out
Vice.
no. Yeah, it was a sign that yeah.
Also, wonderful job of letting us slowly come to understand that these are the actions of somebody who is trapped and loves her family very much.
Yeah.
They didn't hit us over the head with it. They didn't explain it. It was great. It may be one of the best episodes we've seen so far.
Yeah, it might be. It was tight for sure. It was a good, solid episode. And this doesn't really necessarily add to the show's value, but I had that green and yellow shirt that he was wearing in the guy in the wheelchair.
Oh,
Go on.
Interesting.
That's it.
Also, a fairly progressive moment in a mid-'80s Friday night spectacle to just casually just have a husband who's in a wheelchair. And yes, it did matter for her story or whatever, but it wasn't a big deal. This is somebody who has been dealt a rough hand, and
Well, and somebody who was speaking not as a victim, I thought that the writing for him was very progressive for the 80s, where he's like, yeah, this is my situation. Some guys don't even want to look at me because I remind them of their mortality. Like, yeah, it was an interesting way of approaching that character.
And also an interesting nod to what's less novel. Think of everything you saw before 1985 and try to come up with a moment where, with subtlety, a husband reminds his wife about the boundaries between them and how, yeah, she's making money, but they have agreements about how they'll provide for their family and so on. I don't know. It seemed very progressive for storytelling of its time.
Modern, very modern. In the sense of, 2020s, not
the 1920s architecture. Yeah.
Yes, right. Exactly. I don't have much else to add. Do you all have any other thoughts on Miami Vice?
No, it's great. Normally a game I like to play is trying to figure out production hiccups. Couldn't be bothered. Was too fascinated by the story.
I noticed a couple of big lights in one of those water scenes. They're kind of lighting up the walls or something, but you can see on one of the walkways one of the big movie lights lighting up the dramatic thing.
They just have those in Miami.
But
also,
now that we're talking about it, like that big party definitely had a border and was definitely just 90 extras being told to crowd together, and they definitely shot many people walking into the same crowd. But whoops.
And I thought the actress who played the female D agent, Elizabeth Ashley, it looks like, she ate it up. I thought she was a guest star because she ate up every scene she was in.
Yep.
It was great.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I went to IMDb and tried to find what else she was in, but I couldn't see anything that I knew of.
Yeah, she's maybe not a superstar.
Well, there were some things that I had seen her in. What was it though?
She was in a Russian Doll recently.
Oh yeah, I wondered if she was related to Natasha Lyonne, but no, she's not.
She was in Severance?
Ocean's 8?
No, that's a 2018
a different
short.
thing.
A different
Okay.
thing. Yeah. But yeah.
All right, that is Miami Vice. We barely talked about Ian McShane, but he was also great. That is Miami Vice, Season 3, Episode 21, Knock Knock, Who's There? When next we meet, it will be January 9th. That's when we're recording our next episode, because we got the Killies next week, and then we're off for a week and back in the new year. So you've got until then to watch Miami Vice 323. We're skipping an episode forward to the Benicio del Toro guest appearance, Everybody's in Showbiz. We'll be doing 2521, Season 1, Episode 8, the halfway mark there. And on Brian's suggestion, we're going to rewatch, or in some cases, watch for the first time, I expect, 12 Angry Men, the 1950s. There are multiple versions out there. You want the one directed by Sidney Lumet. That is 12 Angry Men, 2521, and Everybody's in Showbiz, Miami Vice. That's it for us. Thank you for supporting us, patreon.com/Cordkillers. You get these episodes early. You get them divided up into easily consumable parts if you want. And we really appreciate that you're giving a little value back for the value you get from this show. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. See you on the Killies, then. Happy New Year.
Woo-woo.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.